Here we go. Welcome, Tim. We are here at the Buffalo Boys Fantasy Podcast. The league is coming into its own. We have our own podcast now.
It's growing and growing every year. Always add new stuff.
You can't stop it. The league is on the up and up. Welcome to the episode. We have a big week. It is championship week in the Buffalo Boys Fantasy Football League. Tim, quick introduction of yourself. Renowned sports enthusiast, over 30 years watching sports. How does it feel?
This is the cream of the crop right here. Nothing gets better than Buffalo Boys Fantasy Championship Week. As much as I look forward to the Super Bowl and the Stanley Cup, this is the creme de la creme of sporting events, and I am pumped and psyched to be here and talk about everything Buffalo Boys Fantasy and a little preview of Championship Weekend between two phenomenal teams.
Oh, man, I couldn't be more excited. This is the, I think, 9th championship coming up here. There's a big chip on the line. You know, I got my name on that trophy twice, and this week we have Senor Halton, who also has his name on there twice and is going for a three-peat versus Ryan Andres, Murray Madness, who has gone 13-0, undefeated so far this year. We're going to do a deep dive in that in a little bit, but it is exciting for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the story of the year right here. The perfect season from Ryan Andres. He's got an incredible team. He's taken a lot of heat from the rest of the boys, but he has stood strong, and what he's done is quite impressive. And we'll see if it's such an interesting championship game because we're going to have feats on either side. We're going to have either an undefeated season, which is incredible, or we're going to have a three-peat. So either way, it's exciting, and both teams are ready and raring to go.
Truly the stuff of legends. Well, before we jump into it, we got to pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Finta, a company that I started, that Tim also works at. And we help people raise lots of money online who have cool businesses and do fun shit. So check it out. A few of you got the referral code easy earlier this week. If you want a free month of Finta Pro, I will personally text you the referral link. Tim, do you have anything else to say on Finta here?
No, just our new promo. Buy a month or refer a friend, get a month for free. You both get upgraded to Finta Pro. No cost. Check it out. Lots of great stuff to raise money and start your companies going into the new year, new you. Join Finta.
TrustFinta.com. Way better than Home Chef or Squarespace or any of those other bullshit podcast ads you have to suffer through. Tim, I got to do it. Here we go.
Oh boy! You didn't tell me, man.
3:00 on a Wednesday, you know, and I also got my little miniature scale model of the arena downtown, Sabres Arena.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. So let's start with the season. You know, Tim, you were a new member of the league this year. What do you think? Well, welcome. What has your impression been? How did it go? We had COVID to deal with. It was kind of a weird year. Let's start the season recap.
It was a weird year for sure. And I think there was a lot of question marks going into it in terms of even if the season was going to happen and what it was going to be like. We didn't know the league vote to start of what's going to happen with injuries and COVID and what happens if the season doesn't finish. So there was a lot of question marks and uncertainty going into it. But I think we kind of pulled it all together and started off with the draft. It was my first year with an auction draft, and to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to go back. That's some fun stuff right there. You get a lot of creativity, a lot of banter, and I thought that was a great way to start. And the season went strong, and we're still going 16 weeks later. So,
and the interesting thing is, you and I drafted with Mike Halton, who did nothing but bitch for an hour post-draft about how shitty he drafted. Well, here we are 15 weeks later.
That's ironic because we also drafted with Ryan too, who had his magazines and notebooks laid out, and we were making fun of him.
We made fun of his pencil and paper.
Yeah, pencil and paper, and here we are. You know, he's doesn't have a loss yet, so I'm thinking maybe next year I got to get myself a CBS Sports magazine and a notepad and pencil, and that's the way to go.
Now, originally, Ryan was doing so well. He was the former commissioner. Then Halton was commissioner, and now I'm commissioner. And but Ryan's the league creator and owner, and therefore still has some admin rights. So originally I was like, fuck, this fucker is editing the scores and he's giving himself wins. But I checked into it. Everything is sound so far. Everything's legit.
We actually said at the draft that we thought he had the strongest team to start, because if you remember, the draft was very weird in terms of prices and who was going where, and Ryan did a really, really good job at draft time of capitalizing on those prices. And he got a lot of the top tier players where I think a lot of the rest of the league was kind of waiting for those, and Ryan jumped. And I think we've seen all year the fruits of his labor of being aggressive at draft time, and it's really paid off for him.
And aggressive on the waiver. Let me pull up some stats here.
I mean, there was one point where he was drafting. He signed a player off the waiver and dropped him the very next day. He never saw the field. He never even saw the bench. The guy probably didn't have time to get on the airplane, and he dropped him the next day.
Absolutely brutal stuff from Ryan here. Let's pull up this here. We got the transaction counter. So, Ryan, 27 drops so far. He's acquired 28. He's pretty up there. Next in line would be Dwyer with 25. Ryan's been pretty active on this waiver, man. He's more so than most. Mike Kelly's actually made a bunch of moves. Mike Kelly made the playoffs this year. Can we talk about a comeback of the ages right there? The man was down and out year after year after year, and finally this year he didn't have a girlfriend and he was able to focus on fantasy football, and he made the playoffs.
Well, it just shows what you get your focus together and you put your mind to something and you can accomplish anything. No distractions. Mike did a really good job from what I've heard. He's had struggling a couple seasons, but he put together a strong team, and yeah, I guess the best way to go is going solo at this.
Yeah, for sure. Let me pull up here the league standings, and we can maybe just do a quick little recap of everyone here.
Sure.
League standings. All right, awesome. So we've already talked a little bit about Ryan. We've talked about Mike. Let's talk about Dwyer. Dwyer was pretty active on the waiver, and didn't. It's kind of mediocre throughout the season, but then pulled into the playoffs. And kind of same with Kyle's sort of the opposite of that with Calgary Cool Kid. He made 2 moves the entire season and then playoffs.
He had a strong draft. He had a very strong draft as well. He had really good depth. He had some good top flight players. DK Metcalf really came in solid for him. I really loved his drafting of Terry McLaurin. Was very solid, who basically escalated up into a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league. Kyle had a really good job. Dwyer is on my list as one of the what he did. He went into the playoffs on a 5-game winning streak. He was, I think it was 3-8 at one point. He was bottom 2 in the league, and he just went on a tear. He made some great moves at the deadline. I loved when he dealt Josh Allen. He went with Justin Herbert, the rookie who was coming out. He trusted him. He went with his gut. He did a really, really good job, and big props to Pat Dwyer. And he put up a real good fight against Ryan last week in the conference championship game. So he props to him. He did a really good job in turning his team around after a slow start.
Yeah, I gotta commend Dwyer on that. I'll give him props on that. Definitely a slow start to the season and 100% turned it around. While we're also talking about it here, your home's to Hilaire. I don't know. Do you get to keep the team name when you trade the player away? The same goes for Court. Court got rid of McCole Hardman.
You can. I wouldn't recommend it, especially after the season I had with him. The name will be changed. I do feel that if you start a season with a name, you should finish it.
I do think you have the best team name out of all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking great. Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince reference. Also, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, my top pick, and paired with Mahomes. I've been screaming "Yo Holmes" to Helaire all season long, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, pretty great. Pat Kelly, what a fucking disappointment.
Well, that's unnecessary.
But I got to commend Pat. He was a stand-up player this year. He did everything right. He was active in the chat. It was a good year participation-wise all around, I have to say, for the league. Keeping it moving here, Michael Andres. again, kind of a sleeper, right?
Yes.
Not much shit talk in the chat, but really, 7-6. Almost won the West.
He would sneak up on you too. He would have players that would just, you would think you were all right going into the week, and he would just then, he was up and down. Some weeks he would just blow it out of the water, and some weeks he'd be, I know he had some troubles with running backs early in the year, had some depth issues, but I think he really steadied the ship as well and just put together a solid team. He was fun to watch as well.
You got to watch those Andres boys. They're sneaky. Sneaky. Bringing it around to Luck still on my side here. Apparently, Andrew Luck is still with Mike Halton because he's about to be in the championship. But
he's there in spirit. That's for sure.
Yeah. And something I realized, we kind of talk about this every year, like, oh, whoever just had like the least points scored against them wins. Halton is in the championship, and he had a lot of points scored against him compared to some of the rest of us, right? 1,400, 1,500, 14, 14, 15, 15, 13, 13. So, top three hardest matchups, right? And he still scored a ton of points and came out with the dubs. So
Luck was not on his side when it came to injuries and opponents. But Luck was on his side when it came to the last few weeks of getting the W's, and he did a really good job of creating a lot of depth on his bench. He had some really, really good pickups, really solid pickups throughout the year. When you have the best running back, the best fantasy player down all year, your number one guy, and he's not there, and you're still in the championship game, that's some great management right there.
Yeah. Also a former commissioner. Maybe I should look into to see if he's.
I'm starting to think that these commissioners are the ones that are always in the championship games. I'm starting to think that there's maybe some collusion going on behind the scenes between you, Halton, and Andres that the rest of the league should know about. Something doesn't add up here.
No collusion on my part. I'm not in the fucking
your name's on the trophy, though. We'll say that.
Yeah. All right. And then we got Court. Court came around a little bit here. I think he got a little distracted during the draft. I think he was playing Dungeons and Dragons, but he came back and he turned it around. 6-7, not a bad showing.
And he had one of the most interesting transactions too, picking up Saquon Barkley. That'll be interesting to see for next year how that plays out for him.
I too have started to stash people on my team because it's a keeper league now. So
you got to think about it. You want to have options when it comes to next draft. You don't know what's going to happen come next September. It's a long ways away. A lot of things can happen with trades and injuries and roster movements. You want to lay your foundation so you're not just stuck with one or two guys at the end of the year. I think Court had that vision early on in the season, picking up Saquon Barkley and just making sure that he was set for a playoff run. He traded for Cooper Kupp. And made a good run in the playoffs, but I think he did a good job of balancing this year as well as future seasons.
Yeah, and also had a kid in the middle of this and still managed to run his fantasy team. That shows the dedication to the league, right?
That's having that's not easy, man. You also did the same too, so I'm sure you can balance. But that also might give him an advantage, though. You're up for those 2 a.m., 3 a.m. feedings, and you're just scrolling the waiver wire and reading.
That's a good point.
You get that extra time when the rest of us are sleeping. That allows you to pull ahead.
So then we had the other fellow Buffalonian turned Bostonian, Vinny. How do you feel Hard Knocks performed this year?
I thought he did well, and we were in the same boat where this was our first year with auction draft. So that was new to us, not knowing what to expect. We were kind of learning on the fly, but I think he made some really good draft picks. Deshaun was really solid for him all year. Aaron Jones, and he had some really good depth picks as well. Chase Claypool, he picked up that put up some numbers for him later on. So I think he did a good job of staying in the hunt for as long as he could, but eventually, those top tier guys that went further in the playoffs just outlasted. But I think for both of us going into next year, knowing how to do the auction draft, how to really we got our feet wet this year, and I think Vinny's going to come back even stronger next year.
Yeah. All right, and wrapping it up, last but not least, the juice is loose, Mr. Donald Lindy. Went with the Tom Brady out of the gate, had Zeke. Zeke was supposed to show. I don't know that he necessarily did. How do you feel? How do you feel about the juice?
Donnie did well this year. He surprised me. He was unlucky with some injuries. I think, Zeke going down really, really hurts you. I think I liked it when the Tom Brady pick. I thought Tom Brady was going to do a lot better than he did this year. Keenan Allen was really solid. He got really good value with him. And Jarvis Landry was a little underperforming. So I think his roster construction was there. It was just a matter of performance week in and week out that sometimes his guys just didn't come up and put the numbers that they probably should have put up.
Yeah. So what is your favorite transaction of the year?
My favorite transaction, there was a lot of them. We had some really good trades that I mentioned earlier, but I got to go with one of the guys in the championships. I think it was huge. Mike Halton picking up James Robinson early on in the season for $6. Nobody noticed it. At the same time, Malcolm Braun went for $16. Adrian Peterson went for $4. Benny Snell. These guys were all drafted or all picked up the same week at the same day. And he had the foresight to pick up James Robinson. And he's turned into a top 5 back, and which really kind of helped him with McCaffrey going down. Robinson was able to step in, and I think that really helped stop the bleeding for Halton. And now with McCaffrey possibly coming back, it looks like he might have to sit out the championship game. But having that depth at running back, I think that was the move this year that really kind of helped him stabilize through injuries. And that's the reason he's playing in the championship game.
It just goes to show how quick you have to be on the waiver, and
Yep.
especially in that first week or two. Things move really fast.
Yeah, I mean, teams are still figuring out themselves, especially this year with COVID, with the off seasons being the way they were. Teams were still figuring out their rosters week 2, week 3, and there's a lot of injuries at the beginning of the year. So, kind of seeing those depth charts shift not only in fantasy but on the actual teams, trying to see who was getting touches, who was getting targets. How the backfields were being split, and kind of feeling it out. It's kind of a crapshoot, but you gotta know what you're looking for. And I think a lot of players fell through the cracks at some point, and some of them, got picked up and either made or break a season. So it was an interesting year for the NFL teams and the fantasy teams alike.
Look at them both here, still making moves on the waiver even up to now.
Well, see, I love this. I don't know if this was intentional, but I saw this the other day, and I don't know if he picked these guys up because he liked them and is doing it for depth.
Who, Ryan or Halton?
No, Halton. Or did he pick these guys up for the fact that he didn't want Ryan to pick them up, which is genius if that's the case.
Court did that last year. Court added people and dropped them, so they were stuck on the waiver, so Kyle couldn't get them in the playoffs. So
yeah,
it could be.
It's smart. I mean, you look at let me pull up I mean, Ryan's got some injuries on the running backs. Chase Edmonds questionable, Duke Johnson questionable, Damian Harris. Both of his starters are there, but if he's looking for some depth, if for some reason, Josh Jacobs or David Johnson goes down, he's a little thin there. So Halton did a really good job of picking up some maybe running backs that may be hot to stream this week. And he basically was just like, he had some budget to spend. He manages his budget well throughout the year. So he left some dollars on the table for this week to put them so he can scoop up those players for the most important game of his season.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we take a quick transition here to the Buffalo Bills?
You got it.
All right. The Buffalo Bills, for the first time since what year, Tim, have clinched the AFC East?
1995.
God damn, it's been a while.
8 years old.
Yeah, we have a special fan here. For those of you not in Buffalo, there is an AM radio channel called WGRZ 550, and it is the sports channel. And there's these two assholes, Shope and the Bulldog, who like to just yell at all their guests and make fun of them, and then complain about the Bills and Sabres, regardless of how well they're doing, because that drives content in 2020. Is that a fair take?
That's a fair take. I would say that they are not the most friendly when it comes to callers, and they don't take kindly to fans calling in and voicing their opinions. But every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, You get one caller that they take a liking to, and I think we found a caller on Sunday that they thoroughly enjoyed.
All right, so we
what-
had a special guest on this. I'm going to play this clip. You guys can take a listen, and we might pause it from time to time to commentate. We will see. Here.
Let's play it all the way through.
Okay, here we go.
How you doing? Show from the Bulldog. Thanks for having me on tonight. The team's just great. We're glad you're around, Rich. Yes. Oh man, guys, 25 years it's been. I'm 32 years old. I was 7 the last time we won the AFC East. And I can't believe it. Can we talk about Josh Allen here? I mean, the progression this guy has made from year 2 to year 3 is unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy. I'd like to hear your guys' take on that. What you guys think of Josh Allen? And is he on the same level as Mahomes and Rodgers? I mean, this guy is incredible quarterback.
I think he's playing so well that you can ask that. I think you accomplish that when you win. Like those guys, the very best guys in the league have a championship. Does any one of them not? Because Jackson has won an MVP and went out in the first round or the second round last year. We'll see what happens there. But Mahomes and Rodgers and Wilson have won Super Bowls. And really, like, that is the thing in this sport that cements you as a great player. So that's what I think. Right now, it's just time. Like, if he can play like those guys have played at, like, Mahomes has played at that level, like he came out of the womb playing at that level. So he's got, 3+ years in playing like that. Actually, this is his third year start. So you've got, and Rodgers, of course, has had already a Hall of Fame career. So if you can maintain playing like this for, 7 years, 8 years, then yeah, you're in that group. All you have done is win and have, duration. And hopefully that'll come. The sound, the way that guy said awesome, it's unbridled. I just love how that guy sounded just now. I heard his voice like raised. Like, I know he didn't mean to do that. It just happened. It was so cool. It was cool. The second game tonight, Green Bay home to Carolina.
Let's listen to that little. I think my phone might have missed it.
Yeah, it's a little tough here. We'll drop it in the text message thread.
Yes. Oh man, guys, 25 years it's been. I'm 32 years old. I was 7 the last time we won the AFC East, and man, I can't remember it. We talk about Josh Allen here. I mean,
All right. Well, props to Mike Kelly for getting on the radio and sharing that. It's pretty good.
We'll drop it in the chat just so everyone can enjoy it and it's clarity. But props to you, Mike. The "I love you, man" reference was a huge hit, and you are one of the few callers that I've heard show up in the Bulldog actually enjoy. So you are one of few, good sir.
Yeah, pretty good. All right. So the Buffalo Bills are definitely going to the playoffs.
They are going to the playoffs.
They are going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Kevin's sports literacy shows through our podcast. Tim picked up the slack. I've been watching sports for 30 years, man. That's a huge accomplishment. Let's jump into this week's championship prediction. So let me share my screen once more, and let's look at the playoff bracket. So a quick recap of the playoffs. We saw Ryan Andres take out Court in round 1. Dwyer took out Mike Andres. Halton took out Mike Kelly, and my brother Kyle took me out, who apparently puts 146 points up out of goddamn nowhere.
Yeah. I will say Ryan made it out of that first round by the skin of his teeth. He was lucky to have a matchup. You look at those numbers, and he easily could have been out in the first round.
That's very true.
A lot of great performances in the first round. A lot of really good matchups. Pretty much all teams over 100, except for one. But I mean, those are the reasons that those are the teams in the playoffs.
And then the next week, Ryan puts up 159 points. Dwyer puts up 142 points, which is a lot of fucking points in this league, and still loses to Ryan. Ryan puts up 159. Halton puts up 164. Ryan's a little weak the week before. Halton is 157 the week before. These are huge numbers fantasy wise. I think Halton's got a little bit more consistency here week to week, but I'm very curious to see what happens in this next week. And do they both crack 150 again? I don't know.
To put up 121 and 142 and lose is tough. The fact Halton is getting hot at the right time, 164 and 157 back to back. Ryan's been putting those numbers up all year, but Halton doing it consistently the past couple of weeks. It's going to be a really, really fun matchup. And I was looking at the rosters last night, and it could go either way. I could easily see both of these teams putting up 150, and it's just gonna be a match
for Halton. So it's pretty even.
It's a coin flip. It's gonna be who gets the hot hand. Who's going to be the ones that instead of putting up 20, they're going to put up 30. And I think it's going to be 30-point players that are going to win the championship here. I could be wrong, but the way these teams are trending, it's going to be points galore.
Projected 129 to 125. Let's just, for the sake of the championship, let's go line by line here. Who's got the better QB here?
Well, these aren't definitively their starting rosters. Obviously, they have till kickoff on Sunday, so there definitely could be some changes. But both of them right now, I believe, only have one quarterback on their roster. So you're looking at Kyler Murray versus Matt Ryan. This is interesting. Kyler Murray has been very, very solid. He's been the top quarterback, one or two all year long. He's a threat on the ground. He's a threat in the air. He can easily put up 20, 30 points. I think he's consistently put up 20 points like the last 5-6 weeks. So he's steady. Matt Ryan could go either way. He's put up, I think, he's put up 20 points. Sorry, let me look real quick. He put up 27 last week, but really he's only put up 20 points 5 times all year. That said, he's playing Kansas City, which in order for Atlanta to stay in that game, they're going to have to put up points. So I think a lot of it is going to be ride or die on that Falcons-Chiefs game from Mike Holland. Also having Calvin Ridley, he's really, I'm sure he's hoping for a shootout in that game. And it could happen. It could easily happen. That's the only way that you're going to beat the Chiefs. So I'm sure the Falcons have a game plan they're putting together that's going to be Air Ryan. So hopefully, that bodes Halton's way. That said, it's hard to bet against Kyler Murray. So I'm going to give the advantage to Ryan when it comes to the quarterback position.
All right. Running back. Who do you think has it here?
Well, both of them are riddled with injury. It doesn't look like Christian McCaffrey is going to play. But that said,
ESPN gives all three to Halton on the advantage here.
Yeah, I would give running backs to Halton. Josh Jacobs has been solid. David Johnson is a fringe number 2, and his backups are all questionable. I give advantage Halton when it comes to the running backs.
All right, Ryan, wide receivers.
Wide receivers, I would also probably give the advantage to Halton. Let me look at the. I mean, it's really for Ryan. He's got DJ Moore, Robert Woods. Are we including tight ends in this?
Yeah. Flex
okay. Okay. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to be solid. He has scored 20 points every week he's played in his last 5 performances. He was out against the Rams and the Packers, but he's been scoring touchdowns, so he could be your sleeper. Allen Robinson, Calvin Ridley, both solid. Woods is going to get a lot of receptions. Travis Kelce is just a stud. I think when it comes to the entire receiving cores of both teams, I think Ryan has the best player available. But I think when it comes to a spread and depth, I think Halton. So I'm going to give the advantage to Halton on that one.
All right. Here we go. And then we got a defense and a kicker. Looks like Ryan takes both of those here. Cardinals versus Colts.
Pittsburgh's interesting though with the Colts. Pittsburgh lost 2 straight, or is it 3 straight? 3 straight. Bills, Washington, and they just lost to Cincinnati. So they're not putting up points. Colts defense has been solid. I like the Colts defense. I know I'm siding with Halton on these But I really like that matchup for the Colts. Pittsburgh is a very one-dimensional offense, and I think teams are starting to see that. Their receivers have had a lot of drops. Colts defense trending in the right direction. San Francisco has been hit with injuries. This could be a push. Could go either way.
Now looking at these points per week that we got here, I mean, it is back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah,
and there's really this could go either way for these two.
It's a push. It's going to be it's going to be which team decides to make plays, and that's something that fantasy owners can't predict. It could just be a deflection at the line of scrimmage that turns into an interception that turns into a pick six. Nobody would know. You can kind of have an idea of which team's going to put up how many points. But when it comes to sacks and turnovers, this one's going to be tough to predict, and it's just going to come down to pure luck.
Yeah. So who do you want? Who do you want to win here?
Well, that's the tough part. It's a lose-lose for the rest of us, right? Because we're either going to have to, for all offseason, we're either going to have to hear about a perfect season or a three-peat championship, and neither one's going to be fun to listen to for the next offseason. I do think it's really cool. I think a perfect season would be fun to see. That's a really cool bragging right for Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
I could go either way. I think Halton has done a really good job with his depth. I think Ryan did a really, really good job of the draft and maintaining those top picks. And you always like to see the David beat Goliath, but there's a reason Goliath's at the top. It's because it's a really good team. And sometimes those teams are just, they're good. And Ryan's done a good job. Not that he had any control over it, but he's missed the injury bug that a lot of us did. That first round of those top tier players, that really the elite talent when it comes to fantasy, a lot of those guys didn't produce. Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley, a lot of our first round picks and top guys were out with injury and other issues. Ryan missed that bug, so he got lucky. But that's what it comes to winning fantasy football and winning these games. You got to have luck. And we'll see which side luck is on when it comes to this championship game.
Well, you kind of skirted on to giving an answer there, but I am super.
Yeah, I'm not giving an answer.
I'm giving an answer. I am 100% giving an answer. And for me, two great guys here. Ryan annoys the ever living shit out of us with all his shitty trade offers. Halton's about to three-peat, but I know the trophy is like under his bar, right? Because I've been to his house, and so I want that fucking trophy like in a case ensconced, where you see it every day. When he wakes up, there should be a trophy case next to his bed, and it's the first thing he looks at.
He should drink his morning coffee out of it.
He should drink his goddamn coffee out of it, right? Except there's no bowl on it. There's just a guy pointing. But Ryan,
I wouldn't know. I've never had it before.
No. But there's just Ryan built the trophy from scratch with plywood, and then I took it to the store and we cleaned it up a little bit and we got it professionally engraved, and there's a lot of history building into this trophy. And so as much as I normally just give Ryan shit for fun, I think I gotta get behind the Murray Madness. And it's annoying because he's not the underdog, but in some ways he is, because he's been so bad the past few years, and Halton's already got 2 championships. So I think I gotta root for Ryan on this. I think I'm gonna go with the Murray Madness as far as my fandom this week.
I will say this. Halton has done a great job, but it's going to be really tough listening to him all year saying how he won a championship without having Chris McCaffrey. So
yeah.
Halton has had it twice. You always like to root for the guys who haven't won it before.
I think that's it.
So I'm not saying either way. I'll be happy with both, but I'm just excited to watch the game. I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Best of luck to both players. It's a good year, man. I really thought we'd get through like 4 weeks and the NFL would shut down. So
yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen.
It was a fun fantasy year. Everyone paid their dues on time. It was good. We had a lot of fun in the chat. People had babies. Some other stuff happened. It was a good year all around. So Thank you, gentlemen, for another great year of the Fantasy Football League. Thank you for voting promptly and allowing that democratic process so no one can blame me for anything. It's all on all of us.
No, we still blame you.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, man, I mean, it's fun. And it's cool. I think, the best part, and Tim, maybe we can end on this note because you just moved to Boston last year. I just moved back to Buffalo, but, the reality is, like, we're all getting older. We're all, like, kind of in different places in our lives, right? And, like, the league keeps us all together. And so, to me, that's what it's about, is staying in touch with everyone. And regardless of your distance or where you are, being in the group chat and shit talking each week and, having reasons to stay in touch. So, thank you guys. I enjoy the league and excited to do it again next year and kick you guys' asses. I'm the fucking king. Tim?
I disagree that you're the king because you're not in the championship game. But alas, I will echo those sentiments. As somebody who I stopped doing fantasy football a couple of years ago just because it was just I was done with it after doing it for 10 years. But I missed that camaraderie and I missed that, that fun. And after moving to Boston and everyone's getting older and losing touch, it's been really cool to kind of still be connected with everybody. And, even if it's just through text messages and stuff like that throughout the year, having the draft at Ryan's was fun. It's great to stay in touch and, send gifts and trash talk and all good fun stuff. And I'm going to I'll miss that come the end of the season, but hopefully we'll still see Ryan's Trump gifts every once in a while.
Yeah, and we'll ride the high as the Buffalo Bills hoist the trophy for the championship.
The Lombardi. Godspeed.
The Lombardi trophy, yeah. That's what it's called. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, you knew that, right? You totally knew that. The football trophy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, I applaud you. Trustfit.com. Check us out. But this is cool. Now that we have this infrastructure, maybe next year we could do a week
recap. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and we want to have some guests on here, so we're gonna call you fuckers, and you can come join the pod, give your 2 cents, and dial in as a guest. So, good stuff. Take care, everyone.
It's been a pleasure. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Go Bills.
Go Bills.